Hey, Bill. There's Jen right there.
He doesn't like to miss. He has a record.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ms. Ackermite, roll call, please.
Mr. Trombley? Mr. Storm?
Present.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Mrs. Marks?
Here.
Dr. Krebs?
Here.
Miss Reed?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
All right, that moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion?
Just one quick comment regarding the agenda. I had mentioned to you this morning, Roger, via email, that I would like to request a closed session for the agenda item that pertains to your communication with me. And I would like to officially request that we handle that publicly. I'd like to, allow you and the rest of the board to conduct what you want to conduct in a open and transparent manner and do it in front of the public. So I'd like to waive my right to do it in closed session and ultimately ask that we do it in public, in front of the public.
Okay. All right. Motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to the superintendent report. Dr. Ella.
All right. I'm going to start off by introducing our second half of the year student liaison for the school board. Our first half person, Sage, is over here. We got to know Sage really well. Our newest person, Tyler Langley, is going to be joining us. I've had a chance to know Tyler for quite a few years. Another outstanding person, just like Sage, all-state cross-country and track runner, outstanding student, on his way to be an engineer in the future. Just a great young man, and just like Sage, really looking forward to having him be with us for the second half. So take it away, Tyler. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Outlaw. So I'm Tyler, and I'll be doing the student report. So we'll just get to it. We're doing a lot in a couple months. So start off with exec board. So exec board is working on advertisement for Respect Week, which we'll get into a little bit later on. Sophomore class council is doing Power Buff. So Power Buff is our annual boys volleyball game. It's a super fun event, and it's a fundraiser for the sophomore class. Just play volleyball, pretty sweet. Junior class council is hard at work at planning prom. Freshman class council just ran their first fundraiser. They're selling a bake sale at all lunches for Valentine's Day. Senior class council is planning graduation, creating our senior book. They sent out a Google form to vote for our class song, quote, and flower, and they're making more student safety / respect education videos, as well as deciding on our class gift for the high school. NHS, we're super excited to announce that we have selected the charities for Senior Survivor this year. So we're going to be fundraising for Fund a Life and the Sunflower Project. So some survivor teams are being evaluated this week. There have been over 20 teams submitted, and committees are continuing to find ways to help the community and the school district. We have over 1,000 volunteer hours and counting, and they're due April 19th. Leadership, we presented the Pink Week check in Toward Trinity Health Center last month. We did the Winterfest Pep Assembly, which was on the 2nd, and we worked to make the assembly more crowd interactive this year. and as well as having a teacher dance again, which is the second year, and we hope to continue it. Leadership class of 2025 applications started last week, so that's super exciting. And we're working on planning the 2023 Lip Dub. Some other clubs and organizations. So next week is Respect Week at Brighton High School. This is our Unified Week. So it's a school-wide initiative to promote inclusion, acceptance, and respect. Unified Sports' main principle is to join people with and without intellectual disabilities on the same team. The simple principle is training together and playing together is a quick way to friendship. And it's our basketball team with our Unified athletes. It's pretty awesome. I'm on it. So the highlight of this week is the Unified Basketball Assembly. It's on the 23rd at 1:15 at BHS, and you're all invited to join. Unified's impact on me has been something pretty special, and it's something that I'm like super proud to be a part of, and I feel like greatly impacts the entire school. So thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, well, thank you very much. If I could just really quickly, I'd like to give a shout out. This morning, we received some great news. We had our pom-pom team was at Nationals this weekend, and pleased to announce that they won the national championship this weekend. So congratulations to our pom-pom squad.
All right, so that moves us to the call to the public. But actually, before we do that, I believe it's my understanding that there maybe some the Maltby leadership students are here. I don't know if they were planning on Ms. Story. Is that correct? I don't know if there's a plan to make a presentation or a discussion. Well, I just didn't want to limit. I wanted to give them the opportunity to not be subject to any specific 3-minute time limitation of our rules for the call to the public. So I was just going to invite the group up now to be able to make their presentation. And I think it's important for us to see these great young leaders and hear what they have to say and not be, limited to our call to the public rules. So I would welcome whoever wants to come up and make their presentation. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm Karen Story, and I am a teacher at Maltby. I run our leadership program, but I also run our MTSS Tier 2 intervention and Tier 3 intervention program at Maltby. So I'm speaking on the perspective of being an educator, but also as a mother of 2 children here in Brighton schools. Our other 2 have graduated, but I just want to say congrats. This is actually, Tyler was one of our Maltby leadership students when he was in 6th grade. And he brought a presentation to myself and Mrs. Whitty when he was in 6th grade of wanting he wanted some sort of basketball hoop. Oh, brother. Okay. Brother did. So anyway, a family of leaders, and it's just great to see. So I have some leadership students here that were brave enough to come and just talk about, honestly, the great things that go on in Maltby. Maltby is a very special place, as all of Brighton area schools is, but I really am coming from the perspective of being hired there in 2001. I grew up here in Brighton. Brighton has been my only home. And I speak from my heart about this, that these kids are the reason Brighton is so amazing. We have amazing educators. I just thinking about the environment that has been cultivated at Maltby due to the fact that we really and truly, we work as a team. If I'm having a struggle, the people here are the people that I work with every single day for 8 hours a day. They're the people that are my support group. And so I just can't tell you enough of just how great this community is. The dedication and commitment, as far as colleagues go, it's evident when we share that passion for education and genuine love for children, which shines through our interaction with our kids and all the efforts. I think about, again, going back to a supportive network of colleagues who are there for each other, the joys and challenges of teaching is invaluable. Knowing that I can rely on all those coworkers that are in there with 30 children and making sure those 30 children have the best day of their life at Maltby. And they do that from walking in the building and greeting our administrators, greeting our parents. That is evident every day at Maltby. So I want to talk about, these guys are going to talk about the wonderful work, just a super small snapshot of the wonderful work that goes on at Maltby. We have lots of great data at Maltby. Kids are learning and doing, but it's also so important to look at the lens from the kids' perspective. So they're going to be here to present and talk. And you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about the teachers, and all the teachers like do so much things for us, and like they make my day fun. Like I don't want to just sit in a classroom and like fall asleep. Like I want to have fun and play games. And like today was fun too. Like in math with my teacher, Miss Robertson, we played a lot of fun like educative games to get ready for our test. And that just like made my day more fun. And I remember last year, the principals, like on the announcements, they would like say like famous people's names so that like all the kids in our class would like laugh and have fun. And like I would like to thank Miss Story because like she takes time like on Wednesday mornings to like teach us about how to be a leader and how to not like follow people, how to take stand for like what's right and be good to the world.
My name is Savannah, and I recently moved to Brighton with my family. The experience at Maltby is amazing. Imagine Brighton Board's education walking into a building of 800 kids flooding through 4 main doors. You're greeted with a waggy tail from Chevy, Officer Mitchell and Mr. Brenner telling a joke, while keeping all 800 children under control. You greet your friends at the locker, and I walk into Miss Caldwell's room, a calm classroom where my teacher has spent many hours creating this atmosphere so we feel safe. Mrs. Caldwell is here to help anybody that needs extra support in math. Then my day continues going to language arts with Miss Dickinson. She has 5 children under the age of 4. She is calm, patient, and loves her job. There is nothing better than going to music class with Mrs. Shores. Here we sing our hearts out in a very safe environment. We have an amazing support staff at Maltby. For example, Mr. Weaver, who I had the luxury of spending volunteer time with, him and Mrs. Story in the Brighton High School Links, where we sold concessions to benefit Mott's Children's Hospital and the BHS TIPS program, which my brother is part of. To watch a team of teachers and students working together to make a difference in our community speaks to our hearts of what Brighton is all about. Finally, I want to talk about Mrs. Story. She is always there for me, and I'm so lucky to get to spend so much time with her. To wrap it all up, Maltby is a magical place where all students are able to learn.
Hi, my name is Christina Sturm. I am a student at Maltby Intermediate School, and I came here today to talk about our leadership at Maltby because it is such an amazing club to be in. Imagine bundled up in a freezing cold temperature while the wind is hitting your face, while pushing a cart full of pie that is from Grand Traverse Pie Company to give to our unsung heroes, our Brighton area school bus drivers. Our leadership group, with the help of Miss Story and Miss Anderson, reached out to Grand Traverse Pie Company to donate something special to our bus drivers. We hand-delivered 40 pieces of pie to make our bus drivers feel appreciated to keep us kids safe on a bus. Can you imagine having 60 kids on a bus and having to drive a bus safely? How about Veterans Day? Maltby students and staff collected items to fill our homemade goodie bags to give to our veterans at the University of Michigan Hospital. We also had a special breakfast this past December to honor one special person in our lives. Our next project is going to be Independent Village, where we will spend time playing bingo with the elderly and giving them a beautiful letter like this. Dear my friend, I wanted to say hello to you and let you know that you are special just the way you are. You are kind, sweet, and so much more, and that's the way you're unique, just like me. You are such a wonderful person because you shine everyone's day up with your smile that is brighter than the sun. I have a little riddle for you. What has hands but can't clap? A clock. Christina Stern, Maltby Intermediate student, you're kind, you're one of a kind, and we love that about you. Maltby leadership is about giving time and talents to those in need, but we know that it is important to sometimes donate financially. Us students have a big payoff that is seeing an individual smile because of the time he gave. These are just a few of examples of amazing staff that have put together for us a good, huge impact in our community. The people sitting in this room deserve a huge thank you. Thank you, Brighton Board of Education.
Well, thank you for all of you sharing your insight this evening. We very much appreciate hearing what's going on in the schools, and in particular, hearing it from your perspective. It's very heartwarming for us as board members to hear it from the students' perspective, in addition to all of the great things that your teachers come up here and tell us that you're engaged in, and it really is. We're proud of all of you. You present yourselves very well. Are great speakers and young leaders, and we look forward to what the future has in store for you. And while we're on the Maltby topic, I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Heisler. Mr. Heisler at Maltby was elected to be the American Legion Teacher of the Year for Brighton, and he is going to be recognized at a special ceremony, I believe Thursday evening, along with the Firefighter of the Year for Brighton and the Police Officer of the Year for Brighton. So kudos to him. We participated in a kind of a surprise in his classroom when he was informed of that award, and it was a great morning. And maybe the best part of it was that although he was surprised and relatively speechless, which I understand is somewhat of a rarity for Mr. Heisler, based on what others have told me. But the students were so excited. They were so happy for Mr. Heisler, and you could just tell that they were just really thoroughly pleased that he was going to be recognized for this honor and the love that they had for him as their teacher. And it was almost as a proud a moment for them as it was for Mr. Heisler himself. So anyway, kudos to him. Congratulations to him. And it's certainly a well-deserved honor for his recognition at the American Legion meeting on Thursday.
And just one quick comment. I'd like to thank Mrs. Story for all that she's done for my daughter, Christina. Often at the board meetings that we hold, I reference the great work that teachers in our district do for my own family. And it was fun to watch my daughter for multiple days practice her little speech in the living room. And to all the EAs that also support my children, some of whom are on IEPs, I really, really appreciate it. We appreciate it. My wife and I just want to say thank you with so many of you here tonight.
All right. So that moves us to the call to the public portion of our agenda. If there is anyone here this evening that would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. Our protocol is to fill out a card at the rear of the room, put it in the box to the left of Dr. Mosier. When I call your name, you will have 3 minutes to address the board. The time, your time allotment is being maintained. When there's 30 seconds left in your allotted time, Dr. Krebs has the cards. She will hold up a yellow card indicating that you have 30 seconds left. And when your 3 minutes is up, she will hold up the red card, and your time at that point will be concluded. It's not a question and answer session. It's just an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the board the ability to do so. So without further ado, the first card I have is Jenny Sobolewski.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Sobolewski, and I am a teacher in the district. I am a parent in the district. I've got a student at Maltby. I see some wonderful teachers here tonight, and 3 students at Spencer Elementary, and 1 more to come. And so I am also in union leadership with the BEA and very invested in this district. And I came actually to share a couple different things with you guys tonight. Today, I had the opportunity, thanks to our curriculum office, to attend a training with Wayne Risa about demystifying the science of reading. And there's a lot of new information or old new information coming out about reading, and Brighton area schools wants to know better and do better. And they are providing us opportunities as teachers to learn the things that we need to know so that we can best serve our students, which is at the core of who we are as Brighton teachers. So I want to thank our curriculum office for making that possible. Thank you, Dr. Mosier, for that opportunity. I also, to speak to a different training that we as teachers received 2 weeks ago, we received training at the elementary level of what we might do if there were a violent intruder. And if you want to see the raw passion and heart of the teachers in Brighton area schools, watch them in a situation with simulated gunshots where they have to go through the motions of what they would do for their students. And you will see everything that you would expect from the sacrifice and the dedication that these teachers are presenting. We sat in a room and heard the noises and knew our training thanks to our law enforcement officers that had gone through some great training with us in the morning. And while it's a shame that we even have to consider this information in this world today, you will not find a more giving group of people who would lay down their life for their students. So just if the board ever wants to be part of understanding the training that we're going through, I think that that's a valuable thing when we consider those type of situations for you to come and participate with us. So I'd like to invite you to be a part of that. Additionally, I want to give a shout out to Chelsea Boyd, the principal at Spencer Elementary. Chelsea walked that fine line that day between supporting her teachers and knowing the procedures that were required of them and offering them a shoulder to lean on and a human side of it when she saw that raw side of us. And so just an amazing job as a principal at Spencer. My next thing is I see that the dividing wall in the gym at Spencer Elementary is on the docket, and I'm very excited about that because ours has been broken for a little while. And so it'll be nice for our custodians to go back to cleaning the classrooms instead of having to worry about moving the gym wall. But maybe like Horning and Spencer, we would actually just love a whole new gym built on. So if you guys could make that happen, that'd be great. That way we have a cafeteria and a gym, and we can have a full gym all day long. So, if we want to modify that a little bit. And finally, I just want to ask that you guys really set the example as a board for what we expect of our students and what we expect of our staff in every one of your interactions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. April Johnson.
Hi, I'm April Johnson, Library Media Specialist at Maltby Intermediate. I have 25 plus years in education, having taught in 3 states and 4 countries. I'm proud to say that I am a Brighton educator, and I'm especially happy to teach at Maltby. With the fantastic leadership at Maltby, teachers and staff work together to educate the whole child. I appreciate the focus on reading, not just as a subject, but as an opportunity to develop the habit and a love of reading. We give our students important tools to not only be successful in school, but also in life. So I just want to say thank you to the Maltby administration, teachers and staff, students and parents. Good things are happening at Maltby. You rock. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal Klein.
Hi, I have a student at Maltby. We moved here about 3 years ago. I have 2 in the high school as well. And just to speak from an outside district perspective, it is just amazing, all the resources and the passion that the Brighton educators have for the students. We definitely came from a curriculum that clearly was behind that of Brighton's, and the staff, the Kickstart program really went above and beyond to help my students catch up and to make friends and to feel welcome and to get involved with the school, the community. And it has just been overwhelming seeing that it's not just a school, it's an actual community full of people who love what they do, and they show it every day they show up. So thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Cross.
I hope everybody can hear me. I'm sorry, I've got like a little bit of laryngitis. I'll keep my comments, very brief. I think I've sent an endless amount of emails about my concerns about various board members' conduct. And speaking from personal experience of what happens to people in this community when the board fails to take action against board members for their despicable conduct, having been falsely accused of crimes that I never committed, and ultimately having that person offer a cash reward for somebody in the community willing to lie and say they witnessed me committing these crimes, along with various other things I underwent. I would strongly urge this board to address Mr. Storm's conduct before it spirals to the level of Mr. Conley's conduct. Very specifically, there are serious risks to the district about violations of financial or fiduciary duties. I attended a committee meeting after Mr. Storm, I felt, mischaracterized things that were taking place at committee meetings. And at that meeting, he disclosed the name of a child involved at a Title IX, in one of the Title IX investigations, twice. And if I had been so inclined, I could have blabbered that name out into the entire community, further compounding the violation of that child's privacy rights. Of course, I did not, though I did tell the child's lawyer. And I mean, it's just lucky that the district has not become involved in more litigation related to that. And, I also think that as a community, we should value all of our fellow board members. And it's less than, classy or professional to ridicule fellow board members for absences due to personal tragedies. And I have found that to be very offensive and disingenuous, especially when you know the circumstances of why a person missed meetings, and then you still ridicule them publicly at board meetings. So again, I just would ask that the behavior across all board members just be better and do better. You're role models for these children. And I know that you can do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very good.
I only have 2 more weeks of this. I want to do very good, president of the BEA, counselor at the high school. I wanted to speak today because as a regular observer of these meetings, I see a negative trend developing. Now, in the past, we have accomplished great things when we have worked together. We have an outstanding school district with excellent staff doing great things with students, as I believe you've seen some evidence of this evening. Question is, can we keep it? Lately, these meetings seem mostly about dissension, hectoring, and endless caviling, rather than teamwork and moving the district forward. I watch these meetings and ask myself, are all these objections really necessary? Is this issue even real? For example, it was stated at the last meeting that science teachers were calling a board member complaining about the hoods in their classrooms. I have spoken to the science teachers who tell me they have not contacted any board members about this issue. We would appreciate it if teachers were not used as pawns for personal agendas. This approach is counterproductive, as it then casts doubt on all claims expressed at these meetings. So let's stop all the bickering and accusations and instead focus on all the good things going on in our district. We need teamwork to preserve and enhance our success. This community deserves nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Kefkakis.
Hello, I'm Christina Kefkakis. I'm a Brighton resident. I'm also a parent to 4 children in 3 schools. I've done my one at every school thing last year. Thank you. I'm a volunteer coach for the last 4 years in 3 different events with Brighton Science Olympiad. And I'm here to brag a little. I have a freshman and a sophomore. They've each done it since they were in 7th grade. And our Science Olympiad team has so many students participate that we now have 3 separate teams within the group, orange team, black and white team. And we also have a large team at Scranton, so all events are full. We have 5 invitationals this year for Brighton High School, and Scranton is going to 4. And last invitational was 2 weekends ago for Scranton. They came in 5th and 6th respectively. And then for the high school, we had our invitational on Saturday. We came in 1st overall with our orange team. Our black team took 4th, and our white team took 10th. So it's trending upward. We continue to be seen as a team to beat at these events. We are in a new region this year, and we think that might be because we keep winning, but we'll see. So I just wanted to share that with all of you because I don't think they get as much publicity as some of the other groups, and they each practice very hard, multiple times a week, and have multiple events. Thanks.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, congratulations to all of the success for the Science Olympiad teams. That's great to hear. I don't believe there's any more cards. Is that correct, Dr. Mosier? I still do have the cards for Ms. Story, Ms. Clive, Ms. Storm, and Ms. Dahl. If you are so inclined to come back up, I'll give you another 3 minutes if you are interested. No? Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was all. Oh, I got one more. All right. Okay, Ken Stahl.
I think this is the first time I've been on this side since I left. It's a little more comfortable. Hi, my name's Ken Stahl. I live in Brighton. I have 3 children, 2 that have graduated and 1 that's a 14-year-old in high school. I don't know how to do this any better than to just kind of read it like it's a story. I kind of see a story happening up here a lot of times. I know all of you. I know you've all pretty good, and I think I've seen you at your best. And I've certainly seen some of your worst days, and I was part of both of those when I was up there. So I can talk about it from my own perspective. But you know, I came here I got to admit, over the last couple of days, I'm thinking I've got to get up there and I've got to say something, and I've got to bring the oorah, and I've got to get everybody hyped about what I see is wrong, and try and convince everybody to do right. And I don't think that's the right approach right now. Kind of actually had a moment with my 14-year-old the other day, kind of put me in check. And he heard me rambling about all the things that I'm worried about at Brighton schools and all the bad things I'm seeing. And then I went to his basketball game. I'm very proud of him and his talents with basketball. Can't talk enough about him. Obviously, I'm talking to all of you about it. But it kind of, the story about what he did, he wasn't getting the playing time that we always think that our superstars should get, because they're going to be, the next NBA stars or whatever it is that we got going on in our heads. And I went down there at halftime. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He says, look, my shot sucks tonight, but so-and-so and so-and-so's got a great shot going on. So let's just, I'm rooting for him, Dad. And I'm like, okay, that's what it's all about. That's really what it's all about. It's the good of all and every one of us getting there. So I'll tell my little story because I know I'm on the clock. And that helped me get there, and a couple of very smart people who I have a lot of respect for kind of got me to this point today. As I drove here today, I was full of disappointment, concern about Brighton schools. I've been to a few of these meetings in my time, and recently it's gotten a little worse in my opinion. The comments have gotten a little more mean-spirited, personally mean. The ability to compromise and collaborate seems to have gone away to the wayside. You're all so much better than that, and I've been here to see it, and I've been part of it at one point. I beg you to stop, listen to people, start conversations, find ways to work together, collaborate. Be the type of leader our students want you to be. If you're only focused on what's good for you, your political party wants, your friends, your supporters, What you're missing is the really big picture, which is you are now here for the good of all Brighton school community. You can't make these choices based on those personal things, those personal thoughts, wants, and desires. If you are, check yourself out, because that's not why you're up there. It can't be for just you, just your kid and your
Mr.
thoughts.
Stahl, your 3 minutes is up.
Can I ramble on real quick and get it over with?
We're going to have to conclude. If you got like
Before.
5 seconds to conclude.
There are so many incredible things that are going on here in Brighton. Some of them presented themselves today. Focus on those. Check yourself. Get yourself in that place where you can talk again, collaborate, and come to the common good, and make us all proud of you and be the leader that we really need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's no further cards, Dr. Mosier? Okay. All right. That closes the call to the public and moves us to the for action portion of our agenda. Item A, the regular meeting minutes of January 29, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Moved by Dr. Krebs,
Support.
support by Ms. Reed. Any discussion?
Yes, I did note in the minutes that we have under the superintendent report that we had a presentation scheduled. We did not actually present those recommendations. So I think we should consider striking letter C under the superintendent report, given that the Title IX update was actually not presented as stated in the minutes. I don't know exactly what the process would be, if we can just remove it or if we have to make a note.
So it would be a motion to correct the minutes, to strike
Can we
that.
just strike it though?
Yeah, and then budget amendment would be, well, it was D in the agenda, so it should probably stay as D.
Okay.
So we have a motion to correct the minutes to strike C. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, support by Dr. Krebs. Any further discussion? All right, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes as modified and proposed by Ms. Marks? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. All right, that moves us to the next item, B, Science Technology. Dr. Outlaw.
Sure. This was a topic that we talked about at length the last meeting. We had science teachers here. We had our technology director here. And it's up for action tonight. This includes equipment, including Animatage tablets, which we had a presentation on. It includes some devices, tablets for our classrooms, additional Chromebook carts, and it also includes microscopes. So are there any further questions for Dr. Mosier or myself tonight?
Well, let's go ahead and have a motion first, and then if there's any further questions or discussion, we can do that. So do we have a motion to approve the Chromebooks and charging carts, Animatage tablets, and the digital microscopes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Storm, support by Mr. Conley. Any discussion or questions of Dr. Mosier or Mr. Jones or?
I know wasn't there some conversation about possibly the bridge getting some of the other microscopes from the other classrooms?
Well, they were already part of the plan that was here.
Oh.
I had a chance to follow up with the team afterwards, and they were already in consideration. I did a follow-up with the Bridge principal and teacher, so Bridge is included.
So they'll get some of these.
They're gonna get some of these, but they may also get some of the others that are not gonna be used at the high school. So we had a conversation with the teacher, and I think we've got, they were already included, but they might get some of the old ones as well.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Moves us to item C, vocational equipment grant purchases. Dr. Outlaw or?
Sure. We had Dr. Darga that was here at the last meeting to talk about this, and this is a new printer for our engineering program, and I think you talked about it in quite a bit of detail. Are there any further questions at all on this?
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the vocational equipment grant purchase as presented?
So moved.
Moved by support. Ms. Reed, supported by Mr. Conley. Any discussion?
What's the, wasn't this thing like 600 of some odd thousand, or are we getting some kind of special deal on it because of Matt Jordan or something?
Yeah, so there was initial, it was a little over 100,000, and then I think it fell down to about 80 some thousand because of a special deal.
What's the, is that in here? The name of it?
The name of the equipment?
The Stratasys S.
Yeah, okay, that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to item D, MASB Board of Directors Elections 2024. So we are, as our membership in the Michigan Association of School Boards, we are part of what is Region 7. There is periodic elections for the director or the directors for the various regions throughout the state. Our region is up for an election. And we have to make a decision. We have to vote on who we support. That then gets submitted to the MASB, and it has to be there before March 6th. In the packet of the board packet, you'll see there's various candidates specifically on pages 31 to 35 are the bios of the various candidates who are seeking that position. On page 35 is the bio of Dale Wingard. He is the current incumbent who is seeking re-election, and all of the others are obviously seeking to replace him. This is for a 3-year term, and so I will entertain a motion that the board support one of the candidates that are specified in with their bios in the packet.
I motion that we support Mary Vincent from the Monroe Public Schools.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Reed to support Mary Vincent, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. All right, that moves us to item E, the board committee structure. We discussed at the last meeting that this would be a topic that would come forward for action at this meeting. We, under our policy, have to decide if we want to continue with the committee structure that we had last year, make some variations thereof. I know there were a lot of different comments that were made by various board members at the meeting. So at this time, I would entertain a motion by any board member with regard to committee structure.
I have a motion. So I would like to move that the board maintain standing committees for the bond facilities, 2, the policy, and 3, academic curriculum, and that the president be delegated the authority to determine the committee's membership and chairperson, and that the board may consider other matters of committee of the whole meeting on an as-needed basis.
All right, so we have a motion by Dr. Krebs.
Support?
Support by Ms. Reed. Any discussion?
Doesn't our policy state that the committee elects the, no?
That was Neola.
Sorry.
Okay, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? No. That passes 6-1.
Who was nay?
Mr. Conley. So I would, if anybody has any specific preference to be on, as we did last year, basically, to be on any of those committees, if you would email me, send me an email and indicate what your preference would be. If you could do that before the end of the week, that would be great. And we'll go from there. All right. That moves us to item item F, board member discipline. This is the topic that Mr. Storm, you addressed earlier this evening. There was a request that you had made that this matter be discussed in closed session. I understand that you have now waived that request here at the beginning of this meeting. Notwithstanding the waiver of that request, I do want to caution that any discussion that is made at the board table this evening regarding this particular item, notwithstanding the fact that we are staying in open session, that doesn't mean that it gives us the right to disclose or discuss information that was revealed in previous closed sessions. So to the extent that that is the intent of anyone, as I indicated in my email to Mr. Storm, I mean, we would necessarily need to go into closed session anyway if that was the desire of anyone to have further conversation about previous disclosures and information from a closed session as part of this topic. So I just want to put that out there. Seeing no requests, we will move forward with this topic. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion that I've prepared and can share with everyone. And then I will read it so that everyone here with us knows what we're talking about. I move that the board censure trustee Andy Storm under board policy 2303B and adopt this formal resolution reprimanding Mr. Storm for his conduct at the board meeting on January 29th, 2024 for violations of the policy as follows. 1, the violation of board policy 2302A, subsection 13, 2302B, subsection 5, 2302B, subsection 6, and 2501D, subsection 3, in that Trustee Storm improperly disclosed and misrepresented confidential board information provided to the board in closed sessions by the Title IX auditor and provided during closed sessions during a separate matter in the winter or spring of 2023, despite contrary public information from the Title IX audit, despite repeated reminders from board members and guidance provided by NASB legal counsel regarding the handling of closed session material. 2, in violation of board policy 2302 in the preamble, as well as 2302A, subsection 9, 2302A, subsection 10, 2302A, subsection 16. Trustee Storm made false accusations and statements regarding other board members, administration, and staff. Specifically, Mr. Storm falsely and continually alleged that board members lacked input into the negotiations of the terms of Dr. Outlaw's contract approved by the board. B, that there was interference by other board members, the administration, or others regarding the scope of the Title IX audit and the auditor's access to information. C, that other board members and Dr. Outlaw were personally threatening him when they cautioned Mr. Storm and the board's legal obligation to refrain regarding the board's legal obligation to refrain from disclosing confidential information regarding students or from closed sessions. And D, false allegations that serious safety violations exist in school buildings. 3, in violation of board policy 2302, the preamble, and 2302A, subsection 16, Trustee Storm violated his fiduciary duty to the school district by engaging in the actions described in this motion. These violations of board policy undermine the ability of the board as a whole to effectively function as a governing body for the district. They create a hostile environment for district employees, foster false public perceptions of safety violations in the district's buildings, erode the public trust in the district's leadership, and expose the district to legal liability and penalties for the unlawful disclosure of confidential information. These violations are unacceptable, and you must refrain from engaging in such conduct in the future in the best interests of the district. That's the motion that I would ask the board to consider adopting tonight. The reason I'm bringing this forward is that I believe very strongly that we need to hold ourselves accountable for following our own policies and procedures. It is incredibly hypocritical for us to sit here and expect that our students, our teachers, our parents and visitors follow our policies and procedures if we are unwilling and unable to do so ourselves. And I think it's very important that we take this opportunity to acknowledge that as a board, we are committed to being truthful at this table. As a board, we are committed to fostering the transparency that truthfulness allows and to dealing with each other civilly. I think anyone with access to the recordings of the past meetings that included discussions of the Title IX investigation has a very clear understanding of the statements that Mr. Storm has made continuously. And even though the full presentation that the administration had planned for last week was not able to be conducted because of some of those statements that were made here at the table, I think the public letter that was prepared by the auditor makes it very clear where that lack of truthfulness and transparency exists. And I'd like to take the opportunity to read that first paragraph that we received from our attorney. I am writing to follow on the Title IX audit that the Board of Education of the Brighton area schools asked Miller Johnson to conduct. As you know, the audit focused on 3 Title IX complaints that BAS handled during the 2022-2023 school year. The board asked Miller Johnson to review the factual background related to those cases and determine whether BAS adhered to applicable laws, regulations, and policies, as well as to make recommendations regarding the handling of Title IX matters going forward. I did not find any evidence of intentional noncompliance with Title IX, nor did I find any substantive Title IX violations that would result in significant liability. While there are areas for growth, nothing I found would warrant disciplinary action against any BAS administrator or employee. And yet, if you listen to the comments that Mr. Storm has made continually at this board table, you would be left with the impression that we are hiding behind closed session to protect folks that warrant disciplinary action. And I haven't heard anything at this board table that would suggest Ms. Tracy has so little value for her professional reputation as an expert in school law and Title IX matters, among other things, that she would falsify that statement in a document that was going to be public. I have no reason to suspect that she has completely and utterly disregarded her professional responsibility as an officer of the court to make a false statement, a statement that she didn't think she could back up, and put it in a document that was going to not be covered by attorney-client privilege and would be public and available for all of the constituents of BAS to look at. I think that speaks very clearly to the gap between the statements that are continually made at this board table and the truth. And we all should be grown up enough to know and understand that we have a responsibility to ourselves, to this board, and to the public that we serve to speak with truthfulness. We don't all have to agree on how we respond to those facts and what comes next. I absolutely welcome and cherish the fact that we all have very different opinions here on this board and that we are going to go forward and test each other's ideas and theories through vigorous debate here at this table. That's what the public expects of us. And for any of us, if we can't handle that, we shouldn't be here, right? But there is a difference between fair and civil debate and a lack of truthfulness. And that is the reason why I'm bringing this motion tonight.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Reed,
Support.
support by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? Mr. Storm?
Yeah, I guess just looking through the document or the handout that was given to us, I'm curious, what facilities, there's a reference to misrepresenting false allegations that serious safety violations exist in the school building. So first of all, from the board's perspective, what are the safety allegations that were deemed false?
You've made allegations that there were fire exits that were blocked at Hawkins.
I have pictures of them right here.
It wasn't a fire exit.
So double doors on a hallway that are deemed an exit when there's a fire for children, that's perfectly okay to obstruct a door?
No, sir, but I also don't think your pictures correctly showed that it was obstructed. You certainly gave the impression that it was a door that was a fire exit and it was obstructed, and that's not.
It's illegal in the state of Michigan and in any public school to have anything in the doorway where children need to exit a burning building in the event of a fire. How is that contentious?
Sir, I don't
I have
think the way
pictures.
that you portrayed it is accurate.
It's exactly, I mean, I sent you all the pictures before the meeting.
Yes,
Okay. So that's the issue, specific to the
one of
facility.
them, yes.
All right. How about the sidewalks? The sidewalks that were full of snow that weren't attended to. Is that a safety issue for elderly grandparents that go into sporting events and slip
Certainly.
and fall?
Yeah.
Is that a
That's a
serious safety issue that?
Yeah.
How about the letters from the parents that reach out to me and other members of this board, including the superintendent, one of whom has reached out to the superintendent for multiple years to address safety issues at school buildings where children are observed falling because the drainage off the side of the building pools on sidewalks, and those children fall and injure themselves as they're getting to their car. Is that a false accusation?
I don't know, sir.
Okay.
That's not part
Okay.
of the allegations that I've made here.
Regarding Dr. Outlaw's contract, I've asked at prior board meetings and in the spirit of this event tonight, can someone on the board please clarify for me when we as a board voted and authorized Roger to engage with our superintendent to negotiate a new contract? I went back and looked. I watched the YouTube videos of all of our meetings. I read through the meeting minutes. I can't find a reference to where we as a board voted and authorized Roger to engage the superintendent, as he stated very openly for 20 plus minutes that he himself worked with the superintendent. When did we vote on that?
You are correct that we did not, Mr. Storm.
Okay.
But I think the allegation here is that you're mischaracterizing the process
I'm
that
not.
led into that and suggesting that none of the board members were included in the negotiations.
I'm saying it's a violation of the Open Meetings Act for our superintendent to enter into negotiations with our president and not have the authorization to do that. We as a board are required by state law per the Open Meetings Act. You're shaking your head. Do you disagree?
I don't believe that's the case.
What do you believe?
I don't believe that it's a violation of Open Meetings Act that independently, that we were required to have a public vote to negotiate a contract.
We had a public vote to accept the contract.
So the school board is not required to vote to authorize the president of the school board to engage the superintendent and literally develop terms of a $1.4 million contract. None of you believe that's a requirement of the school board to do that before the president does that, acts on that, takes action?
No, I believe it's our responsibility as a board to engage with that contract when it comes up for us to vote. And I believe that we did.
So I have in my little folder here, the meeting minutes from the meeting where it was identified under for action, that we would, for action, consider extending the superintendent's contract. Where in those meeting minutes does it reference a new contract? Does anybody know?
It's not there.
It's not there. You're right. Thank you. Okay. Regarding the Title IX situation that has a number of people concerned, some of whom have spoke tonight, our district, and I think we have on this board 2 attorneys. Is there two attorneys, board certified attorneys? Most attorneys, when a person engages with an attorney, there's an engagement letter that establishes the relationship between the client and the attorney, thus attorney-client privilege. And our district, Chad Scaling to be specific, provided very clear guidance to the legal counsel when the Title IX investigation was initiated. And in that scope of work that was communicated to the attorney who was contracted by, at that time, the administration, it spells out specifically what we had as a policy committee, so myself, Jennifer Marks, and Ms. Reed, what we ultimately had communicated with Dr. Outlaw and that Dr. Outlaw actually documented in the meeting minutes of our policy committee meeting. Where in the report that you referenced earlier, where does it speak to the scope of work that we as a district paid for the legal counsel to perform on our behalf?
The board asked Miller Johnson to review the factual background related to those cases and determine whether BAS adhered to applicable laws, regulations, and policies, as well as to make recommendations related to the handling of Title IX matters moving forward.
Does what you just read align with what Chad Scaling sent to the attorney who was ultimately engaged and put under contract to perform the investigation?
I believe this is, yes.
I can say
It's a
with
more succinct
100%
version of it.
fact that it does not.
I disagree with you.
Okay, well, I have a copy of the email from Chad Scaling if
I know,
Yes,
you
sir.
read it at the last board meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Okay. As it relates to the letter itself, I don't personally disagree with the statements that are made in the letter. I think I made it very clear at the last meeting that the wording of the letter is specific. I mean, it's a professional attorney who's putting together a letter. That's what they are trained to do. And the letter itself, I don't disagree. I've stated this publicly. There's no suggestion that there's a criminal activity that has been done. What I have absolutely stated, and will state again this evening, is that there are serious policy gaps. And just so the public is aware, we actually discussed the policy improvements that need to be made in this district at our policy committee meeting with Ms. Reed, with Jennifer Marks, and with Dr. Outlaw. It's in the meeting minutes that Dr. Outlaw sent to us. What I have repeatedly stated at this board table is that this district, specifically this board, has not acted and made changes to improve based on those issues that were identified. Regarding the reference to Dr. Outlaw's presentation, I would again love to hear from my peers on this board how after 12 plus months of discussion, dialogue, engagement with the public, third-party legal counsel hired to investigate over almost a 12-month period of time, how is it that the attorney who we as a board and as an administration hired submitted a report mere days prior to our board meeting to us? First time I saw that report, I believe, and I have it in my notes, roughly the Thursday prior to our Monday board meeting. So that report gets sent from a third-party attorney to us. I don't know who received it from the board, if it was Roger or who on our board received the report from the attorney. Was it you, Roger?
Yeah, I forwarded it to
You
all board
received
members.
it and then forwarded it to all of our board members. And we come to the board meeting on Monday, and before we as a board have had a single meeting, we haven't had one single meeting to review, to discuss, to debate, to establish actions regarding the letter. The superintendent of our school district stands up to speak to suggestions, recommendations that he ultimately wants to implement related to Title IX policy in this district. How is that possible? How is it that we as a board would not have the opportunity in public, in an open meeting, to discuss and to debate and to ultimately align around what ultimately was captured therein? Regarding disclosing confidential information, obviously the public is aware that there's differences of opinion as it relates to what ultimately constitutes confidential information. I feel that I have a responsibility to the public to maintain transparency and candor. I have a responsibility to the parents whose children were involved in cases that involve rape and sexual assault in our district. And I have never, contrary to what was communicated this evening, I have never, ever disclosed the name of any individuals who have been involved. But I have absolutely advocated and will continue to advocate that this district and the board specifically waive attorney-client privilege and redact in their entirety references to the names of the involved parties, but not redact the names of the individuals in the administration who were involved in all of these Title IX cases.
I would like to say one additional thing in response. Mr. Storm, since you brought up, how could the administration be prepared to offer recommendations? As you know, we did discuss some of the things that we wanted the administration to be able to do and affect at the policy committee. And I believe here at the board table, we asked the administration to be prepared to present their recommendations for change going forward at the January 29th meeting. So Dr. Outlaw taking the time to put that together after the receipt of this letter on January 25th, the same time the rest of us received it, is exactly what we asked him to do. It's specifically what I believe you asked him to do and be prepared to discuss with us
When? When was that request made?
at our December meeting.
Board meeting?
Yes, sir.
Who made the request?
I believe you did. And we all agreed that we wanted the administration to come with recommendations.
Prior to the board reviewing and discussing the letter.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to see that exchange where that was something I stated. I don't
Okay.
recall it.
I mean, we had a pretty extensive discussion here at the board table about
The good news
that.
is these meetings are recorded.
Yes, they are.
Anyone else? All right. Oh, there's nothing further. Oh, okay. Mr. Conley.
In the oath of office that we all took. Thank you. In the oath of office that we all took, which I believe Andy is standing up to, it talks about following all laws, not ones we pick and choose. I believe his intent is to do that exactly. If you just open up the first page, MESB, what do school members do, school board members? Okay, they provide for the safety, number one, let's educate, but provide for the safety and welfare of students. And that's what Mr. Storm's doing here tonight. This is almost unreal, this board is talking about tonight. And they've done this in the past in different areas and different times. But this is not good. So obviously, Mr. Storm is well studied on what he's presenting. And I applaud him for standing up for the students involved. And in the report, there's one student missing. So I'll leave it at that for the moment. But there's more to be said on this and more that can be said in open board, just like we're sitting here tonight. And I understand the concerns. And maybe things aren't perfect, but the reality is the intention is perfect. Thank you.
Nothing further? From my perspective, first of all, with regard to the disclosure of information from closed sessions and the portion of the motion regarding the misrepresentation of the information that's contained within the closed session, I think it's important for all of us to revisit the fact that there have been multiple instances where we have specifically cautioned you, Mr. Storm, and reminded you that it's entirely inappropriate to disclose any information that's derived from or disclosed in a closed session. And because of your concern about what extent that you are entitled to engage in transparency by disclosing information, and so that there was no misunderstanding about the significance of maintaining that confidentiality, we actually engaged the MASB legal counsel, Brad Banasic. He went and we spent an hour before one of our meetings last spring, and Mr. Banasic did a very thorough presentation regarding the Open Meetings Act and the exception of the Open Meetings Act. And during the course of that discussion and the presentation by Mr. Banasic, you specifically raised the idea and posed questions regarding how do you reconcile a board member's desire to be transparent with the rule regarding the confidentiality of information from the closed session. And Mr. Banasic, consistent with what we had repeatedly explained, was that you have to, as a board member, if there's any doubt in your mind that any information is covered by the confidentiality of the closed session, you have to err on the side of non-disclosure. He said that that is critically important, and it is actually the opposite of this notion of wanting to take a transparent approach, because there's obviously significant legal implications when that information is improperly disclosed. And I give that background as well because I've heard you say on numerous occasions, including at the last meeting, that you're interested in disclosing the report but redacting only the names. And what's really flawed about that approach is that the entire report and the information that's discussed is confidential. It's not just the names of the individuals. And in fact, even in the non-confidential letter that and the executive summary that we received from Ms. Tracy from Miller Johnson, she specifically addressed in that letter as well that the disclosure of those reports would not only violate the attorney-client privilege in the closed session, it would also violate Title IX itself and would violate FERPA, because the scope of FERPA doesn't just relate to the names of the individuals involved. If there's any information in a report that could from which somebody in the public could infer who the identity of that person is, that's a FERPA violation. And so the idea that we are just going to redact names and then let everybody have at it, I mean, that's illegal, number one. And it's part of the caution why Ms. Tracy said this is not, this shouldn't be done, and the board absolutely cannot do it. And so ultimately, you then made the motion to waive the attorney-client privilege. And quite frankly, from my perspective, I think that was a ploy that you did in order to absolve you of the fact that you did already violate the closed session disclosures. Because if ultimately the privilege is waived and the information is out there, then any disclosure that previously constituted a violation of the Open Meetings Act and the confidentiality would essentially go away, because now that information is public. And fortunately, the majority of this board made the appropriate and prudent decision not to go down that rabbit hole, and very properly did not agree to waive the attorney-client privilege. The other attacks regarding the non-confidential executive summary based upon what you mischaracterized as being inconsistent with the information contained in Ms. Tracy's report is just a further example of the violation.
Can you clarify that, what you mean by that? So your position is that reflects what's in the scope of work that Chad Scaling sent to Miller Johnson?
I believe that the scope of what Ms. Tracy described is as broad as any lawyer could possibly describe the scope of their role. And they're not, they're very broad language, probably about as broad as you could possibly draft as an attorney that's been engaged to conduct that analysis. Absolutely. I think, frankly, it's broader than what Mr. Scaling described in the email. And so, and getting back to this idea of the criticism over the timing of that letter and what was attempted to be the overhead display of the recommendations. And this came up at the last meeting, and I'm going to say it again. These were not Dr. Outlaw's recommendations. There was you were demanding that we receive the summary from the Title IX auditor, and that's what we got. And as I explained before, I had been attempting to get that information from her previously, but because of the fact that she is viewed as a preeminent expert in Title IX, and she is engaged in overseeing and assisting school districts in numerous active Title IX cases, those always take priority over what we did here, which was a retrospective audit of what had happened a couple of years previously on closed Title IX cases. Our engagement is always going to take a back seat, and I explained that on numerous occasions to this board. So the timing of it, I mean, while we would have all loved to have had it, received it sooner, I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. But be that as it may, what we were trying to do was provide then the disclosure to the public of the verbatim recommendations. This wasn't Dr. Outlaw's recommendations. This wasn't my recommendations. This isn't anyone's recommendations other than the Title IX expert herself. And we just wanted to have the transparency to be able to show that to the public. And unfortunately, because of the obstruction that we endured at that meeting, that never happened. It's still available to the public. I've provided it to many people who have requested it subsequent to that meeting, and there's certainly nothing to hide. Transitioning to the issue with regard to Dr. Outlaw's contract, I reiterate and agree with what has been stated. There's no Open Meetings Act requirement that we as a board vote to have conversations and negotiations with Dr. Outlaw's contract. We are required. We are required as a board to.
Just for clarity, did you say we or did you say you?
We.
Okay.
That's right. Because and on that note, and I'll get to it in a minute. Just going back to previous examples, I've been on the board, well, this is my 8th year, when there were changes to Dr. Gray's contract, when Dr. Outlaw was actually hired, there was no vote to authorize the president at that time or an executive committee to negotiate the contract. It was implicit within the authority of the board leadership that was undertaken. Frankly, the first time I ever saw Dr. Outlaw's contract when he was initially hired by the district was when it came forward for action for approval by the board. Okay, so that was
at that time to say that you felt that was not appropriate, or did you feel that was appropriate?
I felt that after having had the opportunity to see the terms of the contract, to be able to have conversations with Andy Birchfield at that point in time, and being able to understand, how did we land here? Is it consistent with, my expectations? And that's how it was handled. And it was entirely appropriate. Because of the concern that was raised at the November meeting, which you referenced the minutes talking about that there was only a reference to extension of the contract. The minutes are not it's not a transcript of the meeting. And
it's the agenda.
So, okay. But during the course of that discussion, which was for future action, we specifically talked about the fact that there would be a discussion with Dr. Outlaw about the extension of the contract and new terms. And we talked about the fact that the executive committee at that point comprised of Mr. Trombley and Ms. Marks and I, we would get together, we would talk about these issues and interact with Dr. Outlaw in that regard. Because I knew that there would be, you had,
would you be able to
hold on.
You can share that with the public, that particular where you feel that it was discussed?
It was in the November. It's in the November meeting. I mean, I don't have it's in the video. It's all on video.
It'd be great though if you could share that with Sarah, then we can share that with the public.
So
I disagree.
Okay, that's fine. And I respect your right to disagree. But because of the concern that you raised, I actually took the extra step of meeting with all of the board members to solicit their feedback with regard to any concerns that they had or issues that they wanted to see negotiated. And as you know, I specifically met with you for an extended period of time, went through the draft of the contract. You specifically requested the addition of a provision in Dr. Outlaw's contract that you wanted to see added, and you were the only one that raised that issue. I thought that was a perfectly good idea, and I raised it with Dr. Outlaw, and he was amenable to that as well. So the suggestion that everyone was left in the dark and somehow I was some rogue cowboy out negotiating something on behalf of the entire district, I mean, that's just false. And it's a mischaracterization of what transpired. And it's really just, it's unfortunate because it also undermines the fact that all these board members up here were involved and had input. And it really is, I think it's highly inappropriate to their effort in the process. And it's just frankly not accurate.
Roger, did we vote as a board? Did we have a discussion? Motion was made, the motion was seconded to empower you, authorize you on behalf of this board to negotiate a new contract with our superintendent.
No.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely not. And the final thing I really two things actually, is that this going back to the question regarding the safety. I mean, it really is problematic when a board member gets up here and says, we've had an ongoing safety issue regarding blocked fire exits that poses, and without saying that the follow-up, but certainly implies that it creates a significant health risk to our students. And I've got pictures of it. And well, first of all, hold on. You got the picture, but the door isn't even shown. And the only thing you can see is a grill in the courtyard of Hawkins. There's no picture of, there's no
shelves on the left.
Okay. So we have a picture of a bench and a grill out in the courtyard of Hawkins, neither of which are blocking any door. And even if they were blocking a door, and we assume that hypothetically, that's not a fire exit. The fire department they've done their inspections. This issue came up before, and because you falsely raised that as an alleged safety issue, and it's simply not. Fire exits into a courtyard for a burning building is not a fire exit. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. So
I'm getting burned because I suggested that this was unsafe. Grills, cardboard, benches, window falling off, drills, Tupperware, shelving, garbage cans. I maintain that our district should keep doors for safety egress to the exterior of a building clear. And I believe if you talk to any fireman or firewoman in our community, they would say the same.
And we have, and the fire department has said that's not a fire exit and it's not a safety issue.
Okay.
And to imply that it is, it completely undermines the public, the public trust in the district, in this leadership, that we are exposing our students and our staff to a building that is violating the fire exits. And it's just, it's simply not true.
Paint falling
So
off the
let
ceiling
me,
of the men's room?
well, that's not a fire exit. That's not a fire exit, Mr. Storm. The final thing I want to say is, as we talk about, the allegations about false statements, not only about things that were said in closed sessions, but to about administration or our buildings. But the final thing I want to point out is, you deliberately went out of your way, which you've done several times during the course of other meetings, but it came up again at the last meeting when you were complimenting Mr. Jones about his presentation for the amended budget. And I completely agree with you that he did an outstanding job with the amended budget, and his presentation was fantastic. And he's done an incredible job since he's been here. And that to recognize our employees and the staff and the administration for the tremendously great work that they do, I am 110% in support of that. But in the next breath, you then took it upon yourself to to basically personally attack and criticize his predecessor who's no longer employed by the district. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, as I see these young adults and any of our other students, we should be a symbol of and project what a good leader is. And are we as a district and as a board, are we hoping that the lesson that our students learn as far as how to be a good leader is to get up in public and just crucify and make personal attacks against former employees? It's completely unprofessional, it's completely unnecessary, and it's unbecoming of any elected official. Quite frankly, I think it's unbecoming of any leader or any employer. And I certainly don't want any student in Brighton area schools to come here and say, I think that is a fantastic idea that we're going to get up there and personally attack former employees, in addition to all the other attacks and false information. So I put that out there because I think that really, to me, that drives the point home of how entirely inappropriate the interaction is, the personal attacks, the bullying. It's completely unwarranted and in my opinion, justifies the appropriateness of this resolution.
Who was bullied?
The idea of bullying.
You said bullied.
Yeah.
Who was bullied?
Bullying and attacking former employees. Well, the individual that you personally attacked at the last meeting was no longer employed, has specifically made allegations publicly about the toxic environment and hostility and bullying to which he was subject, which frankly I think is why there was the comment that was made at the meeting last night as part of the further retaliation. It's just inappropriate.
What meeting last night?
The last meeting that we had.
Oh, okay. I thought you said the meeting last night.
No, the last
So I
meeting.
just, a couple questions for you, Roger, based on what you said. I wanted to give you a chance to finish.
Sure.
How many people on this board interfaced with the third-party legal counsel that was engaged by Brighton area schools throughout the course of the investigation? I did not. Did you?
The executive committee, we did have a meeting with that attorney.
One time.
So
One time.
how many meetings did you have with the independent third party, Ms. Marks?
One, I was involved in
One meeting? Roger?
One. Well, excluding the we had meetings in closed session. Right, obviously.
Not counting that.
Ms. Reed?
One.
Ms. Grant?
Only the ones that we had together
Okay, in closed session.
in closed session.
So outside of the closed session, no interaction.
Only one outside of closed session.
I've never had any interaction with the independent third-party legal attorney that was contracted by our
Closed
district.
session.
Outside of closed session. How many phone calls have you had with the attorney, Roger, over the course of the 12 months?
I would call to get updates regarding the status. I don't know, 6, 7. I'm just kind of guessing, because she had indicated when there were going to be completion of reports for closed session. So I was trying to get interaction from her regarding when we're scheduling these closed sessions. And in fact, a second closed session was scheduled I think it was September. She called me and said we couldn't do it. And I sent out an immediate text that we would have to take that off the agenda. And I specifically remember you texting me saying, is our meeting off then? And I still have the text. No, our meeting's not off. We're just not having that closed session. So
You mentioned in your remarks that the attorney that we contracted is a Title IX expert. How many Title IX cases has she been involved in districts in the state of Michigan?
I would say hundreds.
Hundreds?
She had dozens over the course, or in my understanding, this is just,
That's what I'm asking.
anecdotal.
Hundreds?
She's been doing it for 20 some years, and this is her area of expertise. So just going by, if she's handling, even if it's 15 on an annual basis, that's 300 right
So
there.
you had mentioned she's an expert, and I was just looking for clarity on what constitutes, from your perspective, an expert.
Well, she was specific. They were specifically referred to us by Troon.
Okay.
We reached out to Troon as to who we could identify as an expert as a Title IX expert. And it was at Troon's specific recommendation that we engage, and that's what we did.
It was mentioned that there were discussions at the policy committee meeting related to this matter, and just for clarification, Ms. Marks and Ms. Reed, you were on the policy committee with me. When is the last time we've held a policy committee meeting?
We last met in October.
October, November, yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely
We
didn't
did
in
not meet in
December.
December.
So
So when was the last time that we discussed the Title IX situation at the policy committee?
I honestly do not recall.
Do you recall?
I believe we were waiting for the completion, and so there really wasn't much more for us to discuss until we received that. That's
Okay.
my understanding.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. So we have a motion pending. It's been seconded. I would ask for a roll call vote. Ms. Ackermite?
Mr. Trombley,
No.
Mr. Storm,
I don't believe, am I allowed to vote, Star, procedurally?
No.
I would think so.
I
No?
didn't- I don't believe.
I don't think so. No, he's
Oh,
not allowed.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Conley,
No.
Mrs. Marks,
Yes.
Dr. Krebs,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes. So that censure resolution passes on a 4-2 vote. And I would specifically ask that the censure resolution be included in the minutes of the meeting. All right, that moves us into for future action, item A, Hilton restrooms.
Roger,
Mr. Jones.
Before we go to for future action, there's something related to the disciplinary hearing that I would just like to mention. I personally would like to make a motion. Mr. President, I'm going to propose a motion to censure you, which I have a right to do. Ms. Vice President, I move on the following resolution to censure. Whereas the President, Roger Myers, has repeatedly denied board members the right to make motions and debate, refused to entertain points of order and proper appeals, recognized only those who have upheld his views, and denied the opposition the right to speak. Specific examples supported by video evidence of Brighton Area Board of Education meetings via the district's YouTube channel and references to specific violations below. Board Policy 2300.A.1 states each board member will remember that a board member's primary concern must be the educational welfare of students attending the district's schools. Board Policy 2300A.3 states each board member will make decisions only after consideration at legally held board meetings. Board Policy 2300A.7 states each board member will encourage constructive dialogue among board members and among the board and students, staff, parents, guardians, and the school community. Board Policy 2300A.15 states each board member will comply with the Open Meetings Act. Board Policy 2300B2 states a board member will not act in isolation, operating as if a board of one. First item violation, BAS 2300A1. During the policy committee meeting held on Monday, April 3rd, we discussed the status of the Title IX investigation initiated by Dr. Outlaw and his administrative team. Although I had expressed concerns to Dr. Outlaw, our board president, Roger Myers, and my peers on the policy committee meeting for 2 months prior to this meeting, it was discovered that no engagement letter existed between BAS and the third-party legal counsel BAS administration engaged to perform the Title IX investigation. Additionally, it was discovered because of the lack of a scope of work captured in a standard engagement letter that the third-party legal counsel had not spoken with any of the involved parties. I repeatedly have requested our board president, Roger Myers, add this subject to our board agendas for discussion and future action in a public forum. And as of this writing, February 12th, 2024, we have yet to discuss, debate, and implement any policy changes related to how Title IX investigations are conducted at BAS. On Thursday, April 6th, our board president, Roger Myers, stated Dr. Outlaw, quote, knows we, the board, expect interviews and Dr. Outlaw stated that, quote, administration has made it clear that the board and administration would deem the investigation incomplete without interviewing, end of quote. All of the involved parties, yet as of this writing, February 12, 2024, not all of the involved parties have been interviewed. On September 8th, I sent the following email to Dr. Outlaw, whose administration was handling the Title IX investigation at that time. The source of my expressed concern at the policy committee meeting on Monday, April 3rd, and in text messages shared since then, was related to what you communicated to me, Jennifer, and Alicia. You stated that the legal counsel the district engaged to conduct the investigation communicated to the district that it did not believe interviews of the involved parties was warranted. I spoke up and questioned how an investigation could be conducted without speaking to the involved parties and establishing a fact pattern that lays out the chronology of events in each of the Title IX cases and the actions that were taken by the involved parties. It is my belief that an engagement letter is a fundamental requisite for a legal matter that involves accusations of sexual assault and the rape of children. Without something in writing, we all argue about what was said or agreed to or thought versus reviewing a written document. This is the exact situation I and my family found ourselves in when my son was placed on a kill list along with BAS teachers in this school district. Since there was no written or formal communication process followed with me, the involved parent, I found myself in a he said, she said exchange with the superintendent. Our board president, Roger Myers, has ridiculed and bullied me in public and in private for requesting that these items related to the safety and well-being of students attending district schools be added to our meeting agenda for public discussion, debate, and action. Our board president's failure to engage the board and encourage constructive discussion, debate, and action without compromising the confidentiality of the involved parties endangers the educational welfare of students in our district. Violation of BAS 23A15, 2300A15. On Friday, April 7th, our board president, Roger Myers, sent the following text message to the entire BAS Board of Education. Does anyone have an objection to the investigator reporting to the Board Executive Committee from this point forward? If not, I will set up a Zoom meeting with Miller Johnson. This communication and the resulting decision to have the third-party investigator report to the Executive Committee is a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Violation of BAS 2300A15. On Thursday, June 8th, Dr. Outlaw sent a text to all board members regarding air quality related to the wildfires in Canada. The expressed concern was the upcoming BAS graduation. Over 20 plus text messages were exchanged between board members. After our board president, Roger Myers, began to bully myself and others whose viewpoint was different than his own, I sent the following message. Hey, Roger, please stop. Brighton is nowhere near New York City's level of air quality. As the president of BAS Board of Education, please involve the board before any changes to the high school graduation are initiated or agreed to. This communication and all of the associated text messages are in violation of the Open Meetings Act. Violation BAS 2300A15 and BAS 2300B2. On June 6, 2023, Dr. Outlaw sent meeting minutes from the policy committee meeting that was held on June 5th. Here's the text captured in the meeting minutes. Mr. Storm, this is a quote, Mr. Storm raised concern regarding a communication from President Myers in which the president of the board relayed to a parent whom had emailed questions on the topic that he had instructed administration to refrain from publicly discussing the subject of an ongoing investigation. Our board president, Roger Myers, without any discussion, debate, or action taken in a legally called board meeting that complies with the Open Meetings Act, instructed the district superintendent to refrain from communicating with the parent of a child involved in a district Title IX investigation. Roger did not have the authority to instruct our superintendent to refrain from communicating with a district parent. Violation of BAS 2300A1 and BAS 2300A7. On November 6th, I emailed our board president, Roger Myers, to request a status update on the Title IX investigations in our district. In the email to Roger, I stated the following. On March 8th, 2023, Chad Scaling engaged outside legal counsel and provided the following scope of work to Kevin Sutton, attorney at law with Miller Johnson. Was the process followed according to the law? Were the parents appropriately advised and aware of the challenges, limitations, and time expectations of the Title IX process? Were the initial disciplinary separation steps taken at the beginning of the investigation appropriate for the situation? Was the time taken from the beginning of the investigation to the resolution appropriate for these cases? Were there negative repercussions for the victim or accuser as a result of the length of time of the investigation? Are there any ways that the district can improve the experience for students and families involved, whether they were the victim or the accused? Timing, communication, etc. Were there other actions taken under the umbrella of Title IX that were unnecessary and or that may have negatively impacted students involved in the investigation? Is there evidence of any malfeasance or dereliction of duty by district staff in any of these cases? Was there any undue influence exerted that may have influenced the way the case was handled? We as a board met with legal counsel on Monday, June 12th to review findings from a single Title IX case. In my email, I stated, since that meeting, to my knowledge, we as a board have not held a single meeting nor had discussion to align on next steps or actions that need to be taken to correct the district failures that were highlighted in the report. During the board meeting on October 9th, I requested the board release to the public findings from the Title IX investigative report our board reviewed in closed session on Monday, June 12th. As of the email's date of November 6, 2023, it had been 7 months since the third-party legal counsel was brought in to investigate. Roger responded to my email on Monday, November 6, by threatening me for requesting what is outlined above. Quote, "So as a reminder, we must refrain from publicly discussing the situation. I also want to again remind you that it is illegal to publicly disclose information, including conclusions from legal counsel revealed in a closed session, and as Brad Banasic from MASB counseled us, if there is any question whether information is or is not subject to confidentiality from a closed session, you should always err on the side of non-disclosure. I encourage all members of the public to review what I have stated publicly and written privately. I have never compromised the confidentiality of any involved parties who are involved in Title IX investigations in the Brighton School District. What I have done is advocated for full and complete transparency within the bounds of the Title IX process, up to and including our Board of Education waiving attorney-client privileges and releasing the investigative reports without compromising any of the involved students or their families. As a result of the questions I asked our board president, Roger Myers, and board members during the meeting that was held on January 29th, Roger initiated disciplinary proceedings against me. I have over 12 months of emails and text message correspondence with Roger to substantiate that his primary concern is not the educational welfare of students attending the district schools. Any member of the public that has observed how Roger has treated members at board meetings whose opinions differ from his own can conclude Roger does not encourage constructive dialogue among board members and among the board and students, staff, parents, guardians, and the school community. Violation of BAS 2300A1, BAS 2300A3, and BAS 2300B2. During the Board of Education meeting held on January 29th, the agenda shows Title IX update under the Superintendent Report section of the agenda. Prior to this meeting, on January 25th to be exact, the third-party legal counsel hired by BAS administration to investigate Title IX cases in our district submitted their Title IX audit executive summary. As a board member, I am unaware to whom on the board this report was originally sent. Roger clarified tonight it was sent to him. As a board member, and as outlined above, I have not received regular communication from the third-party legal counsel at Miller Johnson. The report from the attorney who conducted the investigation, Catherine Tracy, states she, quote, did not find any evidence of intentional noncompliance with Title IX, nor did I find any substantive Title IX violations that would result in significant liability. Her report goes on to outline suggestions to reduce exposure to complaints with the Office of Civil Rights that include training, establishing procedures to incorporate best practices, notice of complaint improvements, addressing entirety of complaints, and documentation. What her report does not capture is the agreed upon scope of work that was provided to Miller Johnson by Chad Scaling on Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Nowhere in her report does she address if parents were appropriately advised of the Title IX process by district administration. Wouldn't it seem reasonable to all of you in the public that after 12 months, our district would have answers to the scope of work the third-party legal counsel was engaged and under contract to perform? Sadly, this situation gets worse. During the January 29th meeting, as the superintendent completed the report out on item B of his section, he stood up to present to the board in public actions the district administration would be taking as a result of the Title IX report submitted to the board on January 25th. There's a problem with this approach. The third-party legal counsel is working on behalf of the board, and the board had only received the report on Thursday, January 25th, 2 business days prior to the board meeting. The board had not yet met to discuss the report, debate the findings, and initiate actions. As I noted during the meeting on January 29th, it was premature for Dr. Outlaw to stand up and speak to anything in the report when the board whom he works for had not discussed, debated, or acted upon the report. The public had the opportunity to witness my open and transparent communication with the entire board. Why wouldn't the report findings have been under the for future action section of the board meeting agenda? How could we as a board move to act on such an important report in less than 2 business days after waiting 12 months? Who on our board coordinated with the superintendent and authorized him to speak to the report without affording the board the same prior to? Our board president, Roger Myers, failed to demonstrate through his actions that his primary concern was the educational welfare of students attending the district schools. Our board president, Roger Myers, who sets the agenda of our meetings with the superintendent, failed to involve the rest of the board in the decision to have the superintendent speak to the Title IX report during the meeting prior to having open discussion and debate with the rest of the board. Our board president also failed to encourage constructive dialogue among board members and among the board and students, staff, parents, guardians, and the school community by impeding this subject from being added to the agenda of board meetings and failing to facilitate an environment where the board could discuss, debate, and take action in an open and transparent manner. Violation of BAS 2300A1 and BAS 2300B2. Dating back to February of 2023, I have brought to the attention of our superintendent concerns related to district facilities, specifically safe egress for elderly family members who attend school events in district buildings. I have received multiple letters and phone calls from district parents whose children have fallen as a result of poorly managed facilities in our district. On February 4th, 2023, I attended my daughter's basketball game at Hawkins Elementary School and found that the sidewalks were not shoveled or salted. An elderly grandmother slipped and fell on the sidewalk in front of me. Upon entering the building, I found the emergency fire exit on the main hallway of the building to be obstructed. It was stated tonight it's not a fire exit. I will maintain it's an exit to get out of the building in a fire. I took pictures and submitted a request to the superintendent to address the situation. After multiple requests over the span of weeks, both items were taken care of. On Saturday, January 27th, 2024, I attended a basketball game at Hawkins and found the same fire exit obstructed with a park bench and outdoor grill. The cover of the grill was on the ground, covered in snow. Additionally, the screen on the window outside the door was 75% off the window and hanging in midair. I then went into the boys' restroom in the hallway and found the ceiling paint peeling off the ceiling. At our board meeting on January 29th, I raised the concerns in addition to science lab ventilation systems not working properly, per phone conversations with district employees, in the district science labs, and asked if there is an audit where someone inspects our district facilities on a regular basis. How can that be contentious? I have repeatedly advocated for specific facilities goals to be added to the performance reviews of district administrators, specifically safety-related goals. Our board president mocks me. In an email exchange on February 17th, 2023, I sent the following request to our superintendent. I've made multiple requests to invite a stakeholder from the Oxford School District to come to our board meetings and share lessons learned in a public, not closed session of the board. I do not understand why there would be anyone in our district opposed to such a request. Our board president, Roger Myers, replied on behalf of Dr. Outlaw. As Matt stated, the failures at Oxford has been thoroughly studied by security officials throughout the state, and we are planning to have our security team provide a detailed assessment to the board in the closed session in March. It would be a colossal mistake to have a public discussion on these sensitive security protocols. You seem to disagree, and I cannot fathom why. Can you explain? End of quote. Yes, I will explain, Roger. As an elected board member, my primary concern is the educational welfare of students attending the district schools. My son's name was included on a similar kill list as a killer in Oxford in his class here in Brighton area schools, and it was my son who reported the student to the teacher in his room. I received a phone call from the Livingston County Sheriff outlining steps the Sheriff's Department took to protect my son. Throughout this process, I did not receive any written correspondence from Brighton area schools related to this matter, specifically to the defendant returning to a BAS classroom. As our board president, your primary concern must be the educational welfare of students. And as a board president, you are required to encourage constructive dialogue among board members and among the board and students, staff, parents, guardians, and the school community. And as the examples above attest, you do neither. Violation of BAS 2300A1 and BAS 2300B2. On November 13th, the BAS Board of Education met, and item B in the for future action portion of the agenda was extension of superintendent contract. At no time prior to this meeting did we as a board discuss extending the superintendent's contract. Reviewing the actual video of the meeting held on November 13th, the board president, Roger Myers, does not state publicly that the board is considering a new contract for the superintendent. On Monday, December 4th, our board president reached out to me via text message, and I quote, "Hi, Andy. Is there a daytime this week when you are available to meet with me to discuss the proposed contract terms and extension for Matt?" I agreed to meet with Roger on Thursday, December 7th. During the meeting, Roger proceeded to pull out papers from his bag and provided me with a hard copy of the new contract he had worked with Dr. Outlaw to create. I was surprised and taken aback that terms of this proposed contract extension involved increasing the superintendent's base salary in addition to other changes. The board meeting agenda that was published for Monday, December 11th, 4 days after I met with Roger, stated item D under for action was superintendent contract. As is captured in the public record, I asked Roger, who engaged Dr. Outlaw, to discuss and negotiate the terms of the proposed $1.4 million new contract. Roger stated it was he who engaged Dr. Outlaw and went into great detail about requesting compensation data from Dr. Outlaw that was used as a basis for his own, Dr. Outlaw's, contract. I've made multiple attempts to request that this subject be added to the board meeting agendas for board discussion, and Roger refuses. As I've stated publicly, as an elected board member, I am unaware of any motion or action that was voted on by the BAS Board of Education to authorize Roger to engage Superintendent Outlaw and negotiate a new contract. It is a violation of board policy for a board president to make decisions outside of legally held board meetings. In addition, it is a violation of board policy for a board president to act in isolation, operating as if a board of one. Violation of BS 2300A7. Upon the conclusion of the board meeting held on December 11th, 2023, Jennifer Marks turned to me and stated, "You are uninformed. I had just concluded advocating for a board to exercise transparency with the public around the Title IX investigation that the district had initiated."
Storm,
Yeah.
are you also making allegations against trustee Marks?
I'm not. No, just let me finish and you'll hear what my allegation is. I had just concluded advocating for a board to exercise transparency with the public around the Title IX investigation that the district had initiated to examine how cases of rape and sexual assault involving minors were handled by the district. At the time, I did not engage or even speak to Jennifer. Rather, I stood up and walked away. At the next meeting on Monday, January 8th, I referenced Jennifer making this statement to me during the board meeting. Our board president, Roger Myers, immediately shut down any discussion and dialogue between Jennifer Marks and myself. I suggested to our board president, Roger Myers, that he should ask Jennifer Marks if what I was saying was a statement of fact, which it was. He refused and reprimanded me in public. During our meeting on Monday, January 29th, I again brought up Jennifer Marks' reference to me being uninformed as a result of advocating for transparency into the Title IX processes that were used to handle cases of rape and sexual assault involving minors in our district. Roger again suggested what I was saying was false, so I asked him again to allow Jennifer Marks to clarify. To my surprise, Roger turned to Jennifer Marks and gave her the opportunity to do so. Jennifer Marks stated she, quote, could not recall what exactly she said to me after the board meeting on December 11th. After the meeting on January 29th, Jennifer Marks turned to me and asked, "Are you mad at me for something?" I replied that I was not, but rather seeking to understand why she would suggest that I am uninformed due to advocating for transparency in investigations of rape and sexual assault of minors within our district. Jennifer, to her credit, and feel free to correct me if you feel this is wrong, Jennifer, admitted she did tell me I was uninformed at the end of the meeting on December 11th. While Jennifer and I were talking, Roger Myers would interrupt us and direct insults towards me. Based on this fact pattern, I would like to request Roger publicly apologize for falsely accusing me of saying something inaccurate about Jennifer Marks. What I said was factually correct. This is an example of how our board president, Roger Myers, does not encourage constructive dialogue among board members and among board and students, staff, parents, guardians, and the school community. Whereas such conduct is detrimental to the Brighton Area Board of Education, now therefore be it resolved that the president be censured.
Because this matter involves the president as the vice president.
I'll second that.
Excuse me, sir. We are not a position where we can actually entertain motions because that was not part of the agenda. Mr. Storm has presented allegations in the normal course in accordance with Policy 2303. Those allegations should have been provided to me outside of this meeting so that we could confer with President Myers and give him the opportunity that you were afforded, Mr. Storm, to request a closed session to discuss the evidence and the allegations or to dispute them publicly. Sir,
Ma'am,
it's not on the agenda.
it doesn't matter. He made a motion.
We
and
didn't
he
have a motion
supported
to
it.
amend the agenda, did we? And we're in the for future action section of the agenda at
It's
this
a
point.
motion. There's a motion on the table.
I support it.
I don't believe that this is the time for motions.
Show me where it says it's not.
We don't have it on the agenda.
That doesn't make
We
any
didn't
difference.
we didn't first have a motion to amend the agenda.
You can make a motion.
Make a motion to amend the agenda then, sir.
Okay. Andy?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Is there a second?
Support.
All right, I'd like a roll call vote, Ms. Ackermite.
Did Mr. Conley second?
He did.
We have discussion.
Yeah, I'm supposed to.
On the agenda item, yes. But not on the substance of the actual motion that is not yet on the table. So this is only to amend the agenda.
So support to amend the agenda.
Okay. On the motion to amend the agenda, I would like to share the following. So our board policies have procedures for addressing board discipline as they were followed with the discipline that we discussed tonight with respect to Mr. Storm. The allegations are supposed to be shared with the member before. They should be included at a board agenda as a board agenda item, and the member has to be afforded the opportunity to have that discussion to dispute or confirm the allegations outside of this. I am absolutely opposed to amending the agenda to cover this motion at this point in time because we have not afforded Mr. Myers the same options that were afforded to Mr. Storm in accordance with the policies and procedures that this board has adopted. Is there any other discussion on the motion to amend the agenda?
Yes, I would just like to say that consistent with this, Mr. Storm, as was alluded to, was afforded all of the rights in compliance with our policy so that he knew what the proposed censure would entail, had the opportunity to present whatever information he believed substantiated his position. And by stark contrast, here we have an ambush, a total retaliatory ambush at that, to try to,
Please focus on just the motion to amend, sir.
and that's why the amendment, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate because, of course, I wasn't afforded the opportunity to expose the falsities of the allegations.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to amend the agenda? All right.
Modify your request, Andy, or stay with it? You want to modify your request and put it on for future, and
I mean, if that's something that the board would like to do.
sounds like it's procedurally correct. So he's given a chance to do that.
Sure.
Are you withdrawing your support for the motion to amend the agenda?
If Andy wants to modify his motion.
The motion on the table is to amend tonight's agenda to add another motion.
Correct.
But it doesn't afford Mr. Myers the opportunity to properly follow through with it.
Right.
So I guess.
So would you like to make the motion to put it on for future?
Yeah. Yeah, so I will withdraw the motion and amend it. Or I will not withdraw the motion. I will amend the motion and request that the motion be to add for future action, this subject to the next board meeting's agenda.
Report.
All those in favor of the motion to have a for future action item on next month's agenda regarding censure of the board, I would like a roll call vote here, please.
Censure of,
President Myers.
okay. So I want to make sure. Mr. Trombley,
Yes.
Mr. Storm,
Yes.
Mrs. Marks,
No.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Dr. Krebs,
No.
Ms. Reed,
No.
Mr. Myers,
No.
I don't believe he's allowed to vote on his own censure.
On
Well,
a mo-
this
on a
is-
motion, the motion to amend the
This is
agenda
the
for
motion
future.
to
I
amend.
absolutely have the
Okay.
right to
To
vote.
amend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Just want to make sure.
In accordance with the procedures of the board, though, Mr. Storm, if you would like to discuss this with me outside, we certainly can, and follow the process that's laid out in 2303.
All right. So now that moves us to for future action, item A, Hilton restrooms.
That is me.
Mr. Jones.
So as we move forward into phase 6 of our bond program, our first project is the renovation of the bathrooms at Hilton. Last month, we put it out to RFP to solicit for the general contractor for that project. We received 4 bids for those services. We opened those just this afternoon. We are going to review those this week. We are going to schedule interviews with those contractors that what we call our finalists. And then at the next month's board meeting, we will give you our recommendation for the general contractor for that program.
It was an open bid, right?
Yes, it was.
Who read low?
Let me double check. I want to say it was Gordon Construction Services, dollar-wise was the lowest bid.
Okay. Once they are on board, who's going to administer the project from the school standpoint to make sure everything's being done correctly and for plans and specs?
Well, is that not up to the general to do, or once we hire them? And the bond committee, obviously they'll answer to the bond committee.
Watch the general to make sure he's doing what's being
So-
proposed for plans and specs.
So is it,
Just as we did with the,
what did you do? Yeah, with
the
the last one,
bond
you had
work,
Clark
as we
run
had
everything.
ongoing from a,
Clark was doing that.
right.
Yes.
And now we don't have Clark because it's going to be a GC contract. From my perspective, I think this is why obviously we should have a bond facilities committee to interface with the general contractor, have meetings with the general contractor in conjunction with the appropriate administrative officials.
Again, who's going to look to see if things are done correctly per plans and specs that we put out for bids?
I think that would be what we should talk about at the bond facility, or whoever's on the bond facilities committee to make sure that that is done.
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the scope of work, sir? What are we looking at?
It's
High
the-
and low. What's how much money? we spend?
The high was really high. So 3 of the 4 were reasonable within $100,000 of each other, from like 5.25 to 6.25. And then we got one that was like 9.25.
He can read the results. It was publicly open.
It was a public bid.
Do you have the results?
I do. So the highest bid was M1 Construction Group at $967,300. The second highest bid was Wolverine Building Group at $655,340. then Lakeshore Global at $600,000 even, and then Gordon Construction at $527,000 even.
Is anyone pre-qualified Gordon Construction, or does anybody know any?
This is my understanding that this is what the interviews are for. So we will bring in those top candidates and ask them all those questions.
And who will be asking those questions?
The architects,
Jason?
Jason is running basically running the bid.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Jones,
This one-
item B is dividing wall replacement for Spencer.
Right.
Is it-
So the dividing wall at Spencer is broken, has to be replaced. We received only one quote to do that work, which is the same company that is doing the dividing wall at Horning. And so, it is our goal always to get 3 quotes for something like this. So what we've done is we put it out onto the state website. So it'll be statewide that we're looking for these services. Hopefully we can get 2 more quotes. So at the next, it's open until the 26th. And then from there, we'll see what we get and we will bring our recommendation to the board next month also.
What's the time frame for completion on that project?
It's my understanding the lead time on those is about 10 months.
That's why I asked.
I know that's why you asked. That's why we're trying to move as fast as we can, but with only one quote, we really try to get 3, and it's a lot of money. So
What are we looking at in one quote? Would that
$125,000.
Is that similar to the other one that we're doing?
I haven't seen the other one, but I believe so.
Is that the same
Sounds
company?
about like
Same
what you
company.
got for Horning, doesn't it? Because it was a
Yeah.
much larger number than I was expecting, that's for
Well,
sure.
the question I'm going to ask, though, is it worth putting it out for bids? Or is it worth, because they're already under contract, to try to negotiate with them so they can get it on order sooner?
Do we have that option?
Yeah.
Considering the amount of money that's involved.
They're already on change order.
Mr. Jones?
The only counter I'll make to you is that we always look for 3 quotes just in order to get the best price. So why don't we wait a couple weeks to see what quotes we get? And then when we come back next month, we'll give you the information and we can go from there.
What if their quote goes up?
We didn't ask them for another quote. We asked for new quotes from, no, they don't get to re-quote their own price.
Okay.
And usually there's but usually there's a due date when you get a quote, so they can't do that.
On the one that we've approved, do we have, there's a bid on that project? Did we send out the request?
Yeah, and I wasn't here for that one, so it's my understanding that that was all done and set and ready to go.
So at least we can send the specs out to them possibly. The other bidders.
Well, they're the ones that quoted.
They're the ones who quoted it, so they already have it.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, well, and the difference,
More than one person that bid on it, though. I'm assuming on the first one that's.
Yes.
The first one, yes, the second one, we only got one, so.
yeah, well, so in with Horning, there was also infrastructure construction because they don't have that divider. Whereas Spencer, they have they have the infrastructure already, so it's just the replacement of the divider itself. Does that change because I mean, is the divider just a product that's being installed versus the Horning is a construction because you got to.
You got to reinforce.
Right.
I'm assuming it is.
Right, that's what I would think too. It's like,
When we put out the request for the bid, it just said for the product, and the removal of the old, installation of the new, and the product, nothing more than that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I would think, as long as it doesn't weigh more than the old one.
Right. So,
okay. Okay, anything further conversation on that topic? All right, item C is facilities. This was a request that was made by Mr. Storm that was agreed to be added to the agenda.
So the suggestion is that we invite the facilities team to come into the board meeting environment on a frequency established by the superintendent and members of his administration to update us on audits that are conducted across the district of district facilities. And so the thought is that it would provide visibility and a regular opportunity for us as a board and for the public to be made aware of issues identified and issues corrected specific to facilities maintenance in our district.
Which I think, Andy, is a good idea because the size of this district with the minimal amount of maintenance staff that we have, there has to be some way of accountability on things that need to be get done, a priority on what needs to be done first compared to other things. Again, you know, I believe, and I might be wrong in saying this, but I thought we used to have more maintenance people than we do now. And our facilities have grown substantially over and above what we have. So to me, we're understaffed in that department. But again, I'm not hearing the person in charge of maintenance coming here asking for more staff either. So again, to me, I think this is something that needs to be done in order to move the amount of money we've sunk into these bond projects. It's been close to $200 million of taxpayers' money. There needs to be some accountability to keeping this stuff maintained per the taxpayers. So in 5 more years, we don't decide just to go and run another bond again to try to get some of this stuff fixed. There needs to be some accountability and a system set up in order to allow that to happen. And again, I'm not seeing that system right now. I know I've talked to Dr. Outlaw about it when he came here. But again, I'm still not seeing anything other than the school dude that people fill out a report when they need something completed. And that's about it.
Is there a reason we wouldn't want this work to be done by the Bond and Facilities Committee that we just reinstituted tonight?
I guess my position is, do we really need a committee to give guidance to our superintendent, who we're paying $1.4 million to set up a basic facilities audit process?
We're not paying him $1.4 million, but
The contract's 1.4
But I
million.
think,
Guaranteed.
that's what our facilities committee has done in the past. And the committee minutes are always available to the whole board, so it's not like we lose the transparency of it.
Yeah, it's a
I
suggestion,
disagree.
and
I don't
last
think
time
the
it came
bond
up, there was a
committee
lot of support
whatsoever
for it
did
among
anything
support.
about, other than trying to put out fires of issues that needed to be fixed. I really didn't see a lot of proactive trying to anticipate what was next in order to be fixed. To me, there is no system in Brighton area schools to have someone look to say, oh, gee whiz, we better order X because in 5 months, we're going to have to replace those because have been used up 99.9%, and we know they're going to blow, and we need to replace them soon.
Right.
There's no system like that set up formally in Brighton schools. And again, to me, back to the $200 million worth of taxpayers' money, that, in my opinion, needs to be protected. And we have a full-time maintenance person that's supposed to, I thought, his job was to do that. But I don't really think that's what he's doing at this time. I think he's putting fires out, and his short staff is trying to do what they can to maintain what we have, but nothing's moving forward for preventative stuff.
But I guess that comes back to, even if the Bond Facilities Committee didn't do that in the past, in terms of looking at a proactive approach, there's no reason why we can't do that. I mean, that could be within the scope of getting that information and talk. I mean, that to me seems to be like a good topic for that committee.
Well, so what happens if another president comes along and you decide not to have a bond committee?
Well, I think we're talking about doing it, this year, like having that conversation and then.
But my point
reporting
is,
out.
Roger, we need a system set up.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And now, if you're saying the bond committee is going to set up a system.
Well, study it and then
that's
make a
different
recommendation.
story.
Right.
I think the actual determination of how to do that is what we would expect our administrators to come to us with. What Mr. Storm, I heard, was asking for was better reporting on how that's going and a clear indication from the board that we expect a system and reporting, right?
Well said.
Well, that would be what they would be comparing it to.
So then-
And there's a lot of off-the-shelf systems. I've had conversation with Dr. Outlet. You can get that are maintenance specific, facility specific. They're easy to implement, easy to train people on. That can track every safety related item, any like roofs, furnaces, HVAC, and it's all that infrastructure exists in the software. Then they just set up a schedule to go around all the buildings, including the grounds, vehicles, and just perform regular inspections and then come in and report out on this is what we found. This is what we need from the board to support our facilities and maintenance efforts in the district.
How many times at night have you driven around and seen the lights off or the lights flickering? We see it, we bring it back and report. I don't think our maintenance people are driving around at night looking to see if lights are on or off. If there was a system set up, maybe somebody would say, gee, once every 3 months, you're gonna have to take an hour and drive around to different buildings, see if all the lights are working, or if the timers are correct.
Fair enough.
I would suggest that at the end of the day, it'll save money anyway. So if we get a good system in place, the person, be it the persons that are involved in this system, and Andy brought up a way to check a room and it gets checked off and it all goes to the computer. I think all that stuff's a great idea. We have to get to that point somehow. And if they do see a ceiling tile that's got a big stain that didn't have yesterday, they just put it in their notes if it's back to maintenance and they can take care of the roof repair versus flood in the classroom. I've seen our showcases full of water in different times during the main hallway and different things that have happened because ice dams and things that could be proactively handled. And, it's how it is. It's Michigan. So I think that would pay for itself in a heartbeat. So bond committee can have at it. Put it together.
Add one comment about this. I think that it could be, and I know this has been discussed at the table before, important for us moving forward to also have projections for cost. We have a lot of facilities now, and as we are trying to maintain them, I think it's important when we're looking at budgets for the future that we know what those costs are
I'm
going
in
to
the
be.
process of putting all that together.
Great.
So it's a long-term plan where we'll have all of our major components that require a lot of money to fix, and we'll have a long-term plan as to when we expect them are going to be needed to be done and how much it'll cost. So working on it.
Right.
Sorry, kind of not the best answer always, but we're working on it.
It's good.
Further discussion on that topic? All right, that concludes everything on our agenda. Our next meeting is Monday, March 11 at 7 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.
You were going to share a copy. So thank you. I was hoping you were going to share a copy.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
like this.
Yeah, I appreciate it.